This video is actually a remake of a video that I already have up on why we as human beings cannot substantiate God's existence through employing the scientific method. I think in my last video I sort of, because of my own wordiness on some of the points, that wordiness caused some to get lost in the video, lost in the points, to the point of relevancy in the minds of some. So I hope to correct that in this video and be more concise. Now, there are many unbelievers who ask me and other believers questions such as, how can we test, by what mechanism can we test that God exists, or by what mechanism, one person asked me, can I test that I know God, and all such questions. It even came up in the Slick Matt Dillahunty debate on the Bible Thumping Wingnut show about God's transcendence, and Matt Slick was showing Dillahunty that the scientific method would not be suffice to test for God because of the limitations of the scientific method, as it is part of the natural material world, and God being beyond the scope of the beyond, or said another way, transcendent of the natural material world. And I hope to expound upon that point, my own position, as we get into this. But let me restate my position. First of all, man cannot know God nor substantiate God's being, God's existence, by employing or through means of employing the scientific method. The first reason is because, and this is the prime reason, the scientific method itself is inferior to God himself, and that the scientific method, is part of the natural material world, and God himself is transcendent of it. And I'll explain both points as we go forward. First of all, what is meant when believers and Christians say that God transcends the material world? Let me borrow from Genesis 1:1. It says, God made the heavens and the earth. Within that one statement, there are a lot of implications. When you say that God made the heavens and the earth, you're also saying, or it is also saying, that God is the maker of the laws by which the heaven and earth hold together, have their working, have their processes. So God, when we say that he's transcendent of the material world, we are saying that God, as he is the maker of the natural material world and how it works, God is beyond that. You hear some saying God is beyond space-time. We measure time by the so-called observable distance width of the universe. Well, God, as he was here before the universe and maker of the universe, God would, by necessity, be even greater than that. In fact, the scripture puts it like this. God says to the prophet Jeremiah, I believe it is 23:24, God says to Jeremiah, do I not fill the heavens and the earth? And at another point, God says, or rather it is said of God, when they're talking about building God a house, somewhere in 2 Chronicles, I believe, shall I build him a house when the heavens and the heavens of heavens cannot contain him? So that's to say, God has a presence of being in everywhere that is space-time, and beyond that, there's nowhere where God isn't. So to that matter, it brings into question whether sequence, the other measure or the other system of measuring by which one reached true time sequence, the sequence even exists to God in reality, um, that is to say, beyond trying to communicate at our level, um, does that exist to God when He is everywhere? There's no place where He isn't. But God would not also be subject to the laws of physics. He's not subject to the laws that cause aging and so forth and decay. He does all these things a part of the material natural world and is maker of the material world, natural world, and all its processes and procedures and so forth. God is greater. He is beyond them and beyond their power. In fact, those powers of those laws are His subjects, as demonstrated in the scripture by such things as Jesus of Nazareth, the Son of God, come in the flesh, being able to command the winds and the waves to cease, and they obeyed Him by the command of His mouth. It's also seen by Jesus being able not only to raise the dead, but also to raise the dead back to life, but also Him being able to do such physical impossible things as walk on water, even as waves and winds are raging against Him, and also having the power to command a mortal man to do the same, to come out on the water and walk on it. But that's the transcendence of God. So the second reason man cannot know God nor substantiate His existence by means of employing the scientific method is not only because God Himself is greater than the scientific method through His transcendence of the natural material world, but also because the scientific method is limited by three things, three major setbacks. A, the scientific method is limited by the natural faculties that humans use to observe. B, the perceptions, experiences, and imagination that man uses or conceives to come to conclusions about the data that they are taking in order to make conclusions, is so limited by these same failings. And C, man's ability to imagine and produce technology to execute the scientific method are also subject to these same failings. So all that comes together in 4, or D. Together man, the examiner's faculties, and the technology that man creates, being material, are of man's self and are so limited to the scope of perceiving the natural material world, and that with further limitations. That's to say, the scientific method can only perceive as much as the examiner employing that method perceives. Human faculties are used to come to conclusions about what's observed in order to first build hypotheses in the scientific method, but also in the coming to conclusions about the data that the scientific method brings out. In human faculties, in the technology that humans create, only test for that which is part of the natural material world. and that with limitation, as I said. We don't even, our technology and our faculties don't even cover the entire makeup of the material world itself. So then it becomes irrational to think that the scientific method and our faculties that employs it and our technology that we create would be suffice to investigate that which transcends the material world, a material world that we can't even completely perceive of itself. But yet we expect our method and our technology to investigate that which beyond that which is beyond that. That's entirely irrational, illogical, and unreasonable.